Mana, now 30, recounted her story that had haunted her for years, one she could never easily forget. Her psychiatrist had suggested sharing it as a way of confronting her fear. This story began more than 2 decades ago when Mana was just 10 years old, playing near her friend Dunia's house. Dunia's house was only a block away from Mana's, and they were classmates. That day they were engrossed in a game of hide and seek. Mana hid beside Dunia's house when she heard Dunia's mother screaming loudly. Frightened, Dunia ran inside to understand why her mother was screaming, and Mana, driven by curiosity, followed. Once inside, they found the screaming coming from Dunia's older sister's room. Trembling, they entered the room, and what Mana saw then stayed with her forever. Dunia's 18-year-old sister was undergoing an exorcism. The girl was possessed by a spirit that refused to leave her body. An old sheik with a long white beard, resembling a mosque elder but with terrifying eyes, was conducting the exorcism. Mana stood paralyzed with fear, even wetting herself, knowing her mother would be furious. Despite her fear, she couldn't take her eyes off the scene. Dunia, driven by worry, rushed towards her sister, but the adults tried to push her back. Suddenly, the sister's voice transformed into an old man's voice, and her face darkened, eyes turning red. She began to convulse violently, then stood on one leg, her body bending backward until her head touched the floor. She stayed in that position, screaming in a horrid male voice. Mana felt rooted to the spot, unable to move, as if her feet were glued to the ground. The sheik, another man, and the girl's father tried desperately to subdue her so she wouldn't harm herself. After what seemed like an eternity to Mana, the girl collapsed, unconscious and silent. When she regained consciousness, the sheik spoke to her, and she claimed she didn't remember anything, as if she had been asleep. This horrifying incident gave Mana nightmares for years. She sought help from a psychiatrist to overcome her trauma. Mana never visited Dunia's house again after her mother found out about the incident and forbade her from playing with Dunia. Especially after Mana fell ill with a severe fever and started talking in her sleep, revealing the entire ordeal to her mother.